What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. So this week I wanted to bring you something slightly different. I wanted to look into the past 4 days of price action. So right now it's Friday morning for me. Was kind of looking at Friday morning's data. I've gone through the rest of this week, and I wanted to bring you a little bit of information on how I would be dissecting the week, and how to actually catch over 400R in 4 days. Okay, so I just want to make it very explicit. I didn't take any trades this week. I haven't really had much time to be on the charts. I just wanted to kind of go through, and as I'm doing my case studies and my review for the week, I wanted to obviously bring you a video. So starting off with the higher time frame narrative, what we can do is we can identify a few things. Okay, we have higher time frame POIs here. So this is an up close candle before the push to the downside, which breaks structure. Great. We also have the same here on the weekly time frame, and same again on the weekly time frame here. Here we have a monthly POI, so a down close candle before the push to the upside, which breaks structure. Okay, right here, this is something that I teach my mentorship students. It's called a fair value gap. So we look for the 50% to be tagged, and then we look for a reversal. And as you can see, through the rest of this week, we have had a reversal, which is great. So with the higher time frame narrative built, we understand that this has been tapped into, and then we can look to continue to the downside. Okay, so if we get onto the daily time frame, here we can see we've tapped into the 50% of this fair value gap. This is the monthly fair value gap, and we have continued to push to the downside with quite a lot of aggression. Okay, which is very nice to see from the 50% of a fair value gap. Okay, so from this line I have delineated right here, this is the beginning of this week, and this is pretty much the price action that I'm going to be going through right now. So from the beginning of the week, what I do is on a Monday, I'll open up my charts, and the first thing that I'll do is I'll actually look on the 15-minute time frame. Okay, so let's jump down onto the 15-minute time frame, and we'll start from Monday. Okay, so here we have Monday. This is midnight UK time. Okay, so this is like when the market opens, and what we actually see here is we have a 15-minute up close candle before this push to the downside. We do have a 1 hour POI right here. Okay, but what we're actually doing is we're looking for bearish moves. Okay, we're looking to continue price to the downside. So what we can do, looking at London session here, okay, what we have is the first thing that I'm looking for on the 15-minute time frame on a Monday morning is I'm looking for, okay, which POI are we in? Are we in a higher time frame POI? Are we actually looking to take a trade pro trend, or are we looking to take a trade counter trend? Okay, so in this example here, this 15-minute POI that we have marked off right here, let me just remove these from here. Okay, so this 15-minute POI is something that you don't actually have to mark off before it happens. This is something that you can actually see has happened, right? You can mark this off after, because we're not actually looking to take a trade from this point. London session on Monday doesn't really provide too much. It's pretty much just making structure for the rest of the week. Okay, so the end of London session, we do actually get a sweep up into this POI and then a push to the downside, which we can then see as a change of character, right? So the sweep of the high and then the takeout of the low. So this could be our first place to potentially take a trade. Okay, now for me, I don't really trade outside of London close. For me, it's actually past midnight, and I start to lose concentration, etc., etc. So I don't really look to take that. If your plan allows you to trade outside of London close, then this could be your first trade. Okay, so we have a change of character on the 15-minute time frame, continuing with the overall trend. Just jumping back a second, if we look to the left hand side, what we can actually see is we have an extreme POI down here, which is a 15-minute down close candle before the push to the upside. Okay, now price runs down into this area in the New York session, and we actually get a very nice long position which is available to us. So if we jump down onto the 1 minute time frame, and we will get over to price action here. Okay, so what we can see is we are waiting for a change in character to the upside, okay, to give us a potential place in which we can look to take a trade from. Okay, so here what we have is we have these lows. Okay, this low gets taken out, and then we look for the high to get taken out. Okay, now this will not provide you with this entry here, but what we actually have here is a lower time frame 1 minute change in character. Okay, and then we push to the upside, we do get a sweep of this high, and then we pull back in and we tap into the last POI, which then gives us a 25-to-1 targeting the extreme POI up here. Okay, now what we also get provided in London session is we have a flip. Okay, so we have the reaction from here, we have the POI formed, and then we have the break of structure, which confirms our 15-minute change in character, and then we have our next entry. Okay, so those are the first two entries that we actually have on Monday New York session. Okay, so this results in a 40R just in those two trades. Okay, moving on to Tuesday's price action, what we can see is in the Asian range here we have a POI, an up close candle before the push to the downside, which does break structure, and then also still inside of the Asian range we do get the reaction from this area. Okay, this could be seen as a potential area in which we can look to continue price to the downside. So we reach into London session, which is 7 o'clock in the morning for me, GMT, and on the 5-minute time frame we do have an up close candle which touched into the previous POI, so the last up close candle before the push to the downside. We do have a POI inside of here. Now all I've done is I've used this up close candle because this one has supposedly already been mitigated here. Okay, so if we drop down to the 4-minute time frame, maybe even 3-minute time frame, okay, what we can see is we have the up close candle before this push to the downside, which also confirms our change in direction. Okay, and then we can look for our shorts from this area here. Okay, this trade results in nearly a 24R also. And then what we also have, if we look on the 15-minute time frame, we also have a change in character or change in direction on the 15-minute time frame, which then confirms that we are continuing bearish. So then we can potentially look up here on the lower time frames again for another entry to continue this to the downside. Okay, so as we can see here, we have a high, this high gets taken out, and then the low gets taken out. This is then a valid POI that we can take a trade from. Same again, this comes out at a 28R, very nice trade. Again, as you can see, this is all stacking up, this is building very nicely. And if we jump out onto the 15-minute time frame, what we can see here is we do have relative equal lows right here. So what we can do is we can actually target this as liquidity for our target. Okay, so if we look over to the right hand side, this is where I've drawn out the targets for these trades, and as you can see, price runs straight down, taps into this liquidity, and then floats around in this area here. Okay, and this takes us into New York session. So what we can do, we have a leg here, so we have a swing high, and then we pushed all the way to the downside, and in New York session we do get a couple of very nice longs also. For me, there would have been a loss here. Okay, so pretty much what we had a 15-minute change in character. We also had an OB flip, which then provides us with a POI, which we can then take a trade from. Okay, so if we jump down onto the seconds time frame here, so we'll go to the 15 seconds. Okay, so right here we have everything that I would need. We have the extreme POI, we then have the change of character and the OB flip, and here we then absolutely get slammed. Okay, just after this we have a V-shaped recovery, so we push all the way down and then we push back to the upside. This is then an efficient market. Okay, so price doesn't need to come back down to this area. Then we make a down close candle before this push to the upside, which then ultimately breaks structure. Okay, so this can be an area in which we can look to take a trade. Same again, we have an OB flip, we have a change in character, and then here is our next trade. This trade results in nearly a 22R. Okay, and then ultimately what we can do is just continue to follow order flow. We can see that price is creating structure, which is holding and pushing to the upside to reach a higher time frame objective. Same again here on the seconds time frame. We do have multiple mitigations of this POI here. Okay, but then what we actually get is we get our final change of character, and then we get the push to the upside, which also results in a 24-1. And we're also just targeting this first POI here. And if we use the premium versus discount, we can identify that this would be the first POI that we can take, partials at, or our final target. So for the next trade on Wednesday, this one is actually formed in the Asian session. So some of you guys may not trade the Asian session. That's absolutely fine. But I do think that there is some very nice positions to be taken in the Asian session, providing that you trade them potentially when there's a larger news event coming out, which means that potentially the day could be consolidated. So getting in early in the Asian session also could be a very nice position to take. So same again, we have the extreme POI, we have the change of character, and then we also have, same again, a V-shaped recovery, and then a up close candle before the push to the downside, which confirms our change in direction, and then we have a POI to take our trade from. Now this one is the biggest one of the last 4 days, okay? So this one actually resulted in, if you were to take a 0.7 pip stop loss, it results in 184 RR, okay? So if we jump out onto the higher time frames, what we can actually see is price runs all the way down from here, okay? We can obviously be taking partials through this, so it's not going to be 100% of 184R. You're not going to make 200R in one trade. It's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to take 100% of 200R. You're going to be taking partials, and if you're not, you're doing something wrong, really. Okay, so this takes us down into London session. We don't really have anything provided in London session. We pretty much just have this consolidation and then price drops. You can look in here on a lower time frame and look for just a continuation to take this to the downside. But ultimately it doesn't really break any structure and then pulls back up into the last up close candle before this push to the downside, which then provides us with our next trade. So our next trade actually forms just after the news event, right? So we have 7 o'clock here, we have the high impact news event come out, we push all the way to the upside and we tap into this hourly POI, okay? Then we start to break to the downside. Same again, if you guys have the seconds time frame, this could be very handy, okay? So if we look right here, we have a sweep of this high, then we have a down close candle, price reacts from this area, pushes to the upside, and then breaks structure to the downside, which confirms our change in character. This leaves us with the last up close candle, okay? And then we can look to take a trade from here, okay? This one results in a 55.5 to 1, ultimately just targeting the low of the previous range that we have been stuck in for the last month or just over a month. Just targeting that low because ultimately we have failed to break any highs up here, so now we're looking to take out this low, okay? Moving on to Thursday's price action, pretty much we just absolutely fell out of bed here, right? We didn't really have any opportunity. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday provided absolutely amazing price action, following order flow, using our entry models to just continue price, bouncing it back and forth and making the most of the opportunity throughout the week. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a few people. I'd really appreciate it. I'd love to reach a lot more people on this channel. I feel like I'm trying to provide as much information as possible to be able to get you guys to a consistent and profitable state. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.